Good evening, everyone. Welcome. We have the perfect night to do this, so this is awesome. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are so excited to celebrate the completion and renovation of the 1846 Blodgett House that I know a lot of you already walked through. This project has been a long time in the making through a partnership between the Park District and the Downers Grove Heritage Preservation Corporation. Over the course of 15 years, the Heritage Preservation Corporation has worked to garner community support, secure grant funding, and acquire corporate donations with the mission to preserve this piece of Downers Grove history. The vision for the 1846 Blodgett House restoration was to create a cultural center focusing on the Blodgett family and their involvement in the nationally significant Underground Railroad. By completing the interior restoration of the home, we have illuminated Downers Grove's heritage as part of the Underground Railroad, thus expanding the museum's audience and increasing tourism in Downers Grove. We are hopeful that the restored home will serve as an education center for schools throughout the area as a must-visit place for students to learn about this important time in our nation's history. Following this evening's speakers, if you haven't already done so, please feel free to go through the house. And we hope you will enjoy the self-guided tour through the 1846 Blodgett House to view the home's preserved architectural features and to experience the newly installed education exhibits. At this time, I'd like to welcome Kathy Mahoney, the Park District Board President.
Good evening. Thank you, Bill. On behalf of the Downers Grove Park District Park Board of Commissioners, thank you all for being here. I'd like to introduce my fellow commissioners, Secretary Bob Tula and Commissioner Brett Bender. So as a commissioner since 2005, I'm not really that old, it has been a privilege to witness the preservation of this historic home. From its relocation from Randall Street to its current site here at the Downers Grove Museum campus in 2008. And I would recommend that you do watch the video of that moving. It's fascinating. To the completion of the exterior restoration in 2010, to the recent completion of the interior exhibits, the Downers Grove Park District is so grateful for the community's support along the way. This project would not have been possible without the tireless efforts of the Downers Grove Heritage Preservation Corporation, the assistance of the Village of Downers Grove, and the financial support of our generous corporate and individual donors. The Downers Grove Park District thanks you. Oh, and last but not least, thanks to all the Park District staff for their work over all these years. Here to recognize our generous donors is Charlie Smart, President of the Heritage Preservation Corporation.
So 176 years ago, 1846, the Blodgetts moved from a cabin to somewhere on this property to build their new home here. And they were active in the Underground Railroad. We have lots of proof of that. I won't spend the time to go into it, but it's very highly documented. So 50 years later, about 1890, the house was moved to the back of the property. They had about 275 acres of property here. So it was moved to what we know as Randall so that they could build the Victorian. By that time, Israel and Avis had passed away, but their son built the Victorian. Move another 115 years, and Peggy Smith, the owner of the house, was selling it. She joked that this was the only condemnable house in Downers Grove. It was small and not good shape, but fortunately, Chris Solman, who's a builder in town, many of you may know. Chris, wave your hand or something. There he is. This is one of the significant steps. Chris, a Downers Grove native, knew that the house had significance, great significance, and I'll say that this was just at the point of one of the recessions. I guess we've had too many. But Chris was determined that he would donate the house if somebody could figure out what to do with it and hopefully move it. So moved now only about 3 months to March 9th. Gordon Goodman and I and a number of others, Susan Estelle and I can't remember who all were there, had a meeting to see what we could do about it. If there was a way of saving it, a way of moving it. And the logical, crazy idea we had was maybe if we could afford to move it over here with support of community and corporations, we could move it here, rehab it, and donate to the Park District, so it would be here in perpetuity. That March 9th, we started our journey, and it's kind of emotional to see it now here being what it was meant to be. We had great cooperation with the Park District, with the village, lots of other organizations that were involved. Our fundraising included large companies. Sarah Lee stepped forward very early. We're just still not everybody committed to doing this thing. Sarah Lee stepped forward with a $60,000 commitment. And everybody said, well, one, that must prove that it's a real idea. And secondly, what do we look like if we reject that? There was an element of embarrassment, I think, coming there. McDonald's had another one. There were numbers of large companies that donated, lots of small companies, lots of in-kind services. I remember the basement waterproofing, for example. Chris had talked to some people he knew, and they came up and said, this is a good idea, let's do it. Almost every work person that I talked to within that, when they would hear the story of the house, was always asking, well, what else can we do? This is really significant. So I had a little tally here, if I can see where it is. So from a financial and fundraising standpoint, because that's all I'm supposed to talk about here tonight, because I could go on for hours about the other stuff. We had about $86,000 in grants, about $88,000 in in-kind donations. That is things like the waterproofing and many, many, many other things. Business cash donations was about $45,000. Ticket sales at 4 different concert events was about $50,000. $50,000 from just individual donations of people saying, here's 10 bucks, here's 20 bucks, here's often many more than that. Community organizations, the Women's Club and others, was about $13,000. So in effect, we raised around $335,000 to move and restore it up to the point that we could hand it off, which I think it was 2 years ago, about 2 years ago, that we officially handed the house off to the Park District to be its caretakers from here on out. I don't know if any of you noticed, in the basement there is a large plaque of a tree with everybody that donated has a leaf. One thing I want to say about the house is that it's not just new museum space. The house is an artifact. It's significant because of its architectural details. However, the house itself reflects the culture of the time. If you saw the Western Citizen, of the little newspaper parts that we found, that in the very old days, people they covered the inside of their house, the walls, with newspaper, and because it was warmer. When we took all the plaster and lath off, we found those little pieces, and it occurred to us that that might be part of the Western citizen. Through looking at it, going to the Historical Society downtown, we found that it was July 14th, 1847. So we now have that paper, and that reflects to me how the house is architecturally significant. It's also culturally significant because of the things that went on there, and they're completely intertwined. And I think that's what happens today, and because of all of you and the donors, you're part of that culture, and it will live on in that way. So I think that's what I have to say is a great big thank you. I'd also like to mention Gwinnett Tilly Turner, who is one of the all-stars in knowledge about the Underground Railroad, and Gwinnett came out very early on to speak to the Park District and to the village about how significant this place is as part of the Underground Railroad. It's great to have her back, and see her. And lastly, I'd just like to say thank you to everybody that helped us with this. It's been quite a ride. Thank you.
Thank you, Charlie. I would like to personally thank Charlie for all his efforts. Charlie, why don't you come up a little bit? Along with Gordon Goodwin, who's in Colorado. Let's give Charlie a round of applause. If it wasn't for his efforts leading this, and spearheading it, and all the meetings in the last 10 years, well, 10 for me, it's only been 10 for me, of getting this from an idea and moving the house to actually having what you see today. And with all the donors, I know there's representatives from the Tipkin Foundation. The last couple of years, they came forward and helped us with getting those displays and getting the house ready. So thank you again, Charlie. We really appreciate it. And at this time, I'd like to turn the mic over to Felicia. Felicia.
Hello. So I'm Felix Camacho. So I'm the Recreation Supervisor of Historical Programming here at the Downers Grove Museum. So I've been overseeing this since I've been here about 4.5 years, and since we got the grant and got this started since 2019, we've been trying to get here. So very excited. So yes, and the Park District is very excited to begin now being able to offer school tours, community group tours, and recreation programs that now highlight the history of our Blodgett family, the Underground Railroad, and this unique 19th century architecture of the house. During today's self-guided tours that some of you have already taken, we do hope that you have enjoyed or will enjoy the new exhibits that tell the story of the Blodgett family, including their efforts as abolitionists and as founders in our community. In addition, make sure you observe kind of some of those unique architectural features of the home, such as the post and beam construction and that mortise and tenon joinery, which you'll find in unique places of the house. Due to capacity limits, some of you already know, we are going to welcome you guys in small groups to explore inside. So in the meantime, be sure to enjoy some of our refreshments. We have refreshments here from Jimmy John's, and check out some of our other buildings. All of our buildings are open, including the 1892 house. And then we also just recently got completed our new temporary exhibit on local artist Lane Newberry in our Montreux Dunham History Center. So feel free to check it out in there, along with the bathrooms are in there if anybody needs them. And then don't forget to also, don't leave without grabbing your special donor commemorative gift under the gazebo. It's a beautiful ornament. So you'll be definitely happy to have this on your tree this year. And so yeah, so thank you guys so much for joining us here today and for us to commemorate the completion of the 1846 house. We're very excited for you guys to be here. So feel free. Thank you.
Thank you again for coming. This concludes our presentation today. As Felicia mentioned, all the facilities are open, so please feel free to get your gift and get some refreshments, and there's some food here, and just enjoy the museum. So again, thank you for coming out.